I am your host, Carrie Scollon, giving us different perspectives on where we are and where we want to go on our journey. Thanks for being here, and I look forward to spending some time with you. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another session of the FoundHer Series. I am your host and founder herself, Carrie Scollon, and welcome and thank you for joining us. I have a mission with this series, and that is guiding women to see that they are more than enough and to invite them to begin creating the life that they desire and deserve wholeheartedly. So if that's you, I am so glad that you're here. And today I have a special guest. Her name is Gillian Yuan. She is a body acceptance coach. She is a former registered nurse. She is certified in mind, body, and eating and intuitive eating. And she is a coach. Her mission is to help moms and women in general, transform their relationship with food, their bodies, and themselves to know how powerful they truly are. So she is a girl after my own heart. Her mission is very similar to mine. And without further ado, I would love to introduce Gillian. And thank you so much for being here. I am honored to have you as a guest, and I can't wait to dive in with you. Yeah. So welcome.
Awesome. Thanks for having me, Carrie. It's nice to be here. If you hear the phone in the background, I'm really sorry.
That's okay.
At home. What can you do? So
that's right. Yeah. I read some of your bio. I love your story. I was able to meet you in person, which I am so grateful that meeting happened by chance. There's no coincidences, in my opinion. So that was awesome. What I loved about your story and what you do for women is so many of us can relate to the body acceptance issues. I think we've all dealt with it at some point in our lives. Mm-hmm. I know that you've had decades of that hate relationship with your body, trying to control it through food and exercise. And it started at a really young age for you, said at the tender age of 8 years old. I would love for you to maybe share a little bit of that, and then we'll continue with the show on what you've done to get you to where you are today, and anything that we can help women out there who are watching, give them some tools that they can take away. So sure. Tender young age, take us there and walk us through your journey so far.
Yeah. So growing up, I did ballet, and my dream was to be a professional ballerina. And at around 8 or so, I overheard my teacher talking to my mom, or I can't remember the exact details. I was young, but it sounded like I wasn't going to pass my next ballet exam because my body wasn't good enough. I was too chubby or too whatever. Not, and to me, at least, that's what it sounded like.
Not a typical ballet figure.
Yeah, exactly. And so, so by 10, I stopped eating as much. a friend of mine at dance class and we both were like, we're not going to eat as much. And so we went, we had probably 3 classes in an evening, and we basically didn't eat throughout that. And we do our homework, and we kind of almost spurred each other on in that way. And by the time I was 11 or so, back then eating disorders weren't huge. There wasn't a lot of awareness about it, but I'm pretty sure I was anorexic. And so, but it worked for me, right? Like I got the parts. I never throughout my time dancing was my technique a problem. It was only my body that was a problem.
Oh.
And so, so I got the parts. I got into various ballet summer schools. And to me, this new diet was working. Yeah.
So you kept doing it.
So I kept doing it
Right.
Until when I was 14 or so, I was at one of the prestigious ballet summer schools, and I looked around and I was like, oh my goodness, these girls are eating. So why can't I eat? Mm-hmm. And so somehow, I believe it was a divine intervention. I started eating again. Like it was almost like instantaneous. And I know typical eating disorder recovery is not that quick. But that was my experience. I started eating, but I never, there was always that little voice in the back of my head, like, you need to watch what you eat. I had a whole bunch of different rules I needed to follow that I placed upon myself. And, and my mom dieted at home. I was well aware of all the different calories that were in my food. And
wow.
when I was in that anorexic or eating disorder phase, my one goal, I had read the Elsie Kirkland, she's a famous ballerina, her documentary, and she had gotten herself to the point where she could eat one Granny Smith apple a day. And that was my goal.
Oh my goodness.
I never quite made it there. Thank goodness. But
so I remember you mentioned there was, I think maybe it was when you were 14 or 15, mm-hmm. you were an understudy.
Yeah, right.
And you kind of thought you got your big break.
Yeah.
And that's when something kind of really turned for you, which mm-hmm. I would love for you to share with that.
So once I was eating again, of course, at a 14-year-old is going through puberty and all of the body changes. So I gained weight again, and which was actually completely normal, but nobody said so or knew so. And so anyway, so I gained some weight. I had been at a different ballet school than where I usually went. And I was an understudy for one of the roles, and we were going on a road trip. I believe it was to Lethbridge or something. And I thought, I'm not going to go because I'm just understudy, but they wanted me to go. So I did. And they took me aside, the teachers, took me aside, and I thought, this is going to be my big chance. I'm going to somehow they want to refit the costume, or I don't know, but this is going to be my big chance to perform. And I wish my parents were here. I was actually told that my body was not a ballet body, and to basically forget about a career in ballet and to find something else to do. Yeah. Without my parents there, without any support.
Yeah. And I think it's such a, it sounds like a devastating something to be given to you, no parents to support you. But what I loved about this part of the story that you told me, what happened afterwards was that was maybe a devastating moment for you, but you did not stop dancing. Mm-hmm. So I just to me, to think of something like that happening, you would just you'd want to quit. You'd want to stop. Mm-hmm. You would and you didn't. You didn't let that stop you, right? And mm-hmm. that I just wanted to highlight that because that shows a piece of your character. Mm. Even with everything that you were going through and mm-hmm. and your body awareness, that didn't stop you. And I just needed to put that out there because that mm-hmm. to me is a moment where I hope you take as a proud moment. Mm-hmm. Even though it hurt and it was coming from people you probably respected, you did not mm-hmm. let that stop you. Yeah. So, anyway, sorry. Carry on.
No, and it's true. I mean, part of me was the defiant teenager, I'll show you, right? Yeah. That was part of it. But also I just loved dancing so much. And I was I don't know what else. But I also knew I had been in the eating disorder realm. And I knew that there was nothing, like I had this moment where I was like, okay, I can either go back to this eating disorder eating, or I can not. Like either I go back and to like pursue my ballet body and professional ballerina dreams, or I just dance for the joy of it and because I love it. And I knew right there that I was never going back. I could never go back to that way of harming my body. Like, you know, as I grew up and learned, you know, when I started wanting, my first dream of being a ballerina was, you know, my mom took me to the Nutcracker when I was, I don't know, 2, 3, 1. I have no idea. And I thought, oh, isn't that beautiful? I'm going to do that. But as I grew up, I learned, you know, a ballerina's lifestyle, maybe not the best, maybe not the best thing. And so not only was it there the, you know, beating up of your body just by practicing all day long, but there was also the expectation of maintaining a certain body size, and on all the things that go into that, suppressing your appetite with smoking, for instance, or all that stuff. And I knew even like minutes after they told me like not to pursue ballet, I knew that I was never going back to that kind of eating and that way. Yeah.
And you could still enjoy doing something you love to do and have the joy without doing that to your body. So that's, you say that's basically when the, your body acceptance, started.
Well,
and then you became aware of it, to change it, to not accept it anymore. But easier said than done. I know that this is not a quick, you recognized it, you changed it, you moved on. These things seem to creep back into different stages that we are in our life as well. So
I mean, I was very much entrenched in diet culture. And like most people are in it and they don't even know it because it's just marketed as the healthy way of eating.
Right. What would your definition be of diet culture?
Yes.
There's probably a really wide range of it, isn't there?
Well, it's interesting because diet culture, if you go back to its origin, it was actually there are different, you know, things like the body mass index. It was ways of excluding people who didn't meet the ideal body standard, whatever it was at the time. And oftentimes that meant excluding and oppressing marginalized people. So it really does have like a racist and patriarchal background, which is so concerning to me. But in, you know, for a definition, it's a cultural market, I call it marketing strategy, that elevates health, like a certain way of eating as being healthy and a certain body type, like thinness, as being healthy and of higher moral value than of eating a less valuable way and having a body that doesn't meet the sociological ideal. So
the societal standards that have been put out there through everything that we're taught in school, in our homes. Like you said, if you had a mom that was always on a different diet, that does something to us. And I'm not blaming your mom by any means.
No, of course not. It's
your
normal.
It totally is normal. I have 3 daughters. I was very aware of that. And I still did and said things that did not benefit them. And, you know, those things come up further along and, you know, we're all doing the best we can, but there are some things when we have conversations like this to bring awareness to it, it will change our conversations that we have with our female friends, with our daughters, with our sons. I mean, nobody's excluded from this. Men are just as subject to this as well. And I think sadly, it's even harder for them to talk about it. So hopefully by having these conversations, we can shed some light on it. I know my journey with body shaming wasn't from the outside. But I never thought I was pretty enough, but I was very skinny. It was, if anything, I felt like I was too skinny, but my body shame came from the inside. So I had to work on that. And a lot of that acceptance, it's not only external. A lot of it is we've got to do the internal work.
Yeah. Body image is not defined by a mirror. It's defined by our thoughts.
Our thoughts. Exactly. And the stories, again, so much of this comes back to the stories that we're telling ourselves and what we've created and what is a truth and what's not a truth. So again, it's when you talk about body acceptance, body awareness and thought awareness of how we are talking to ourselves about our bodies. So I know that one little thing that I started doing, and this was after years of work, but for women, standing naked in front of a mirror is something that is just like not even on the table. Yeah. And I found that I did little tiny steps of that. I would just for a moment, just look at yourself in the mirror. Be thankful for what that body has given you. And you don't even have to look at yourself fully naked. You can just start by like, this is my face. Look at yourself with your face. And then, so like, you don't have to do it all at once if that feels baby steps, too difficult. And you're right. That can be very difficult. But I mean, I probably did start with every once in a while, just taking a glance and not going, ugh, you know, and that was fully clothed. So, and really, the goal is not to go from hating your body to all of a sudden loving your body. It's if you're able to even just move a little bit more towards like a little bit more positive, a little bit more possible thoughts than what you had before, and moving even to just the point of like neutrality. Like I have a body, I have a female human body, like things like that, versus going from I hate my body to I love my body. Because whenever you say a mantra of some sort that doesn't sit with you, it's not going to change your thoughts. So slowly moving towards a thought that's a little bit more positive and possible. Yes, a little bit nicer, just a little bit nicer to yourself. I looked up the definition of self-acceptance. Acceptance is a word that I really like. It doesn't mean that it's you're bypassing it when you accept something. You just it is what it is. It is what it is. Yeah. This is what I have, self-acceptance. So the definition of it was the actor state of accepting oneself, the actor state of understanding and recognizing one's own abilities and limitations. So it's not neither right or wrong. It's just at a place which almost feels like the neutrality that you're talking about. Exactly. Just accepting that this is what we have. Yep. And that it can be such a beautiful place. And no matter where you're at, you have value, right? Like there's no... your worth is not dependent on what your weight is or what your body shape is. Nothing to do with your worth. And you're not defined by that. We are defined by the thoughts that we have in our head and what we choose to think. And that was something that I really had to get over. Work through. That's a better way of saying it. After having my son, because I felt like I had a fairly difficult birth, and I felt like if I could just get my body back to where I was before I was pregnant, then my entire life would be wonderful. And that clearly did not happen. Even though I hired the coach, I did the meal plan, I counted my stupid macros and micros and exercised super hard. And I lost the weight and I felt no differently. Right. Like you lost the weight, but you also had a health issue. Right. Yeah. And then I developed pericarditis, which is the inflammation of the sac around the heart. And would you ever relate and I'm not minimizing this at all, but do you relate how you treated your body with what your body did and kind of turned on you as a wake up call?
Yeah.
Like, hey, we can't be treating our bodies. If that's how we continue to treat them, our body's going to eventually say, hey, this is, it made you stop. It made you.
Yeah. I mean, in hindsight, initially that's what I thought. And I was born with a hole in my heart that was repaired. And so my heart has always been a little bit of a point of contention for me, shall we say. It's always been a worry. And so, so I think now I did definitely attribute it to it. When I'm looking back, I think that many things happened. Like I was sick. I had a virus and I didn't fully heal from it before I let the pressure of training for this triathlon that I had signed up for get to me. So I did that. I also had not been sleeping, and like my son was maybe 2 or 3 at the time, and he wasn't sleeping through the night.
Right.
Yet. But also my own, I just wanted to be that perfect mother, and there is no such thing. And but I didn't. Pressure. Yeah, and being a mom and baby nurse and a lactation consultant, I had these huge standards set for myself. And so I think between the stress and the lack of sleep and the exercising when I was still sick, which don't do that, and just the virus itself, I think that all just kind of culminated into this inflammation that I had.
And you touched on, you were a nurse.
Yeah.
So you should know all this stuff, right? That expectation. You shouldn't.
Yeah.
But in your own mind, when you said your standards were up here because you've seen women, you've helped women go through this, and here you are in it.
And I couldn't live up to those standards,
right?
Which was what we were told to teach our moms that we saw as nurses and lactation consultants. Right. And so then I started having this incongruency of, okay, this isn't working, and this isn't really helping. Right.
So and you saw the stress that
it caused.
Put on themselves.
Yeah. This was 10 years ago, but 10 years ago, there was huge pressure on moms to exclusively breastfeed, which is difficult if your baby won't latch in the first few days. Yeah. Which was for me. And there was also this huge push for attachment parenting, which I didn't know enough about. But it became to me have no boundaries with your child. Bring them into your bed whenever they need to. Have them attached to you for all the time, right? Yeah. And so
there's so much information out there. What's right, what's wrong. You're not a good mom if you don't do this. You're oh my gosh. So much of that.
And so motherhood is kind of like body image in that motherhood isn't defined by exterior standards, right? As long as you're taking care of their basic needs and loving them and they're safe, right? We're not going child welfare stuff here, but it's not defined by what any external baby book or baby schedules. It's in our minds. It can be what we want it to be, as long as our children are taken care of.
Yeah, of course, loved and safe.
Yeah,
right.
Exactly.
I know that there were days where I thought, okay, they're still alive, they're fed, and that's all I got today.
Exactly.
That was the best I could give them.
Yeah,
and that was okay. Did I feel okay in that time? Probably not. I'd beat myself up for not doing something else. But there were days where that was all I had, and that's what I did. Yeah, totally. And we can beat ourselves up about that. But so now, okay, so sorry. We could probably, again, every time I have a guest on here, I feel like we could talk for another.
I know.
So hopefully some guests will stay on and do the 30-minute Q&A after. It won't be recorded. So for those who are watching the replay and not able to get access to you, what are there some things that we can do to just start? Like I know we talked a little bit about the, thinking that next best thought or that little step up from that positive thought. But what would you say would be if somebody came to you and just said, I don't know where to start. I have never loved my body. Like you said, don't tell me to go from hate to love.
Yeah.
In a 4-week session. I mean, there's baby steps that we can take. Can you walk us through a little bit of that?
Yeah.
Just give somebody something that they can take away and maybe start implementing or at least thinking about something like that.
Yeah. So first thing is to start noticing your thoughts about yourself. And even because often eating, how you eat and how you see your body is kind of go hand in hand. There's a lot of diet culture in that. And so start noticing if you're judging yourself for what you're eating as being good for eating the supposed more nutritious food or bad for eating the food that is considered not as nutritious, and start instead seeing food without any moral value and not judging yourself for what you're eating.
Okay. Sorry, I'm going to just interject there. So are you talking about intuitive eating?
Yeah, that's a part of intuitive eating. Yeah.
Okay.
So
can you give us a little?
Yeah, I don't know if we have time, but yeah. So intuitive eating is it's developed by Evelyn Tribole and Resch is her last name. I can't remember her first name offhand. But anyways, Tribole and Resch, they're the dietitians who developed it. And it's a set of principles. They're not rules. It's not like a diet, but it's just like tuning into your body, noticing your hunger, knowing that no food is necessarily good nor bad, and starting from a place of compassion, which is my tip for anything that you're wanting to heal, is start with self-compassion.
Yeah, beautiful.
And so that's why look at your thoughts, maybe jot them down, whether it's about food or about your body or about anything else in your life. Jot them down and ask yourself if you would say this to your best friend or your child. Yeah. And if the answer is no, see if there's a way that you can just change it, make it just a little bit more positive, a little bit more believable, and a little bit more possible. So, So like I said, instead of being like, I hate my body, this is my body in its current state. Yeah.
And that's what it is.
And that's,
now that's what it is.
Mm-hmm. So starting to talk to yourself more in a compassionate tone of voice and slowly moving towards neutrality and body acceptance and very small baby steps. Like we're not talking huge leaps, just very small. And often movement and eating and diet can be very tricky to get out of. Yeah. And so if you can start just uncoupling movement, how you move your body from how it looks or from wanting to change how it looks. That's all. Those are some really great ways of starting out.
Okay. Now, for someone that wants to connect with you, I know that you do workshops, you do one-on-one coaching.
I do one-on-one coaching. Where
can they find you?
Yeah. So you can find me on Instagram. I'm at Gillian Yuan Moms. So Yuan, Gillian with a G, Yuan, Yuan, and then Moms, MOMS. And I also have a podcast. It's called Motherhood Undieted, and it's available on most podcast platforms. I have one season out. I might be doing another one. I haven't decided, but you can get some of my info there. And then there's always my website. So GillianYuan.com. So
perfect. Well, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
I think the next 30 minutes is going to be also extremely valuable. But I really appreciate you taking the time. Time is our most precious resource. So for the people joining in, I appreciate that. And for you giving us your time, I appreciate that. I would love to let you know that next week we have another beautiful lady joining us. Her name is Julie Scott. She's a self-expansion guide, and she helps mature women connect with their power, purpose, and possibilities, and to be in love with your life. So that is next week, Julie Scott, if you are hopefully going to join us again. And in the meantime, I'm going to leave you with, you are more than enough as is. And I hope that you can start to create the life that you desire and deserve. So thank you so much for joining us, and we will see you next week.
Thank you.